welcome to wisetake.com. This is CK013 bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It's Tuesday, January 10th, 2017. We've got a nice 9-game slate for you today, making up for last night's horrible 3-game slate that just completely went to crap. Derrick Rose, nowhere to be found. He's AWOL. I'm sure he burned a few people. I had him in one lineup in a GPP. Glad that was it because he was gone. So apparently, from what I understand, I'll talk briefly on Rose. Apparently, obviously I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm a little upset myself because of the direction the team is going in. Not that I thought Rose was our answer this year, but I certainly thought Rose had a better chance of putting us in the playoffs than anybody else on that team as far as point guard goes. But the Knicks are 1-4 without Rose, and apparently, from what I understand, he was at the morning shoot-around. That's why people expected him to play. And he went to the morning shoot-around, reporter saw him there, and that was it. And he just didn't show up to the game. So they didn't know where he was. After the game, they got a hold of him. I think Joakim Noah got a hold of him and just confirmed that he was okay. Apparently, he's back in Chicago. And we don't know what's going on. I'm hoping everything's okay. Hopefully it's nothing personal. I get the idea that it's not. The reports today indicate he could be on his way out of New York. We don't know. I definitely would be careful playing the Knicks going forward. Just because you saw Melo get ejected, it seemed like he was just super frustrated. Maybe he's a little upset. I don't really know. I know he wants to win, and he stayed in New York hoping to win. Him and Phil had plans to bring players in, and Rose was that guy, one of those guys, and it's just not working out. KP had a horrible game, so I'd be weary until we find out more information. Brandon Jennings, I guess if Rose ain't going to play, Jennings is going to be interesting week to week. We'll see what they do there. But yeah, I don't know. As a Knicks fan, I'm a little upset, but I heard that him and Hornacek had a big blowout after Indiana. I think he was upset about being benched in the fourth quarter in a couple games. I think against Milwaukee and Indiana, but we'll keep an eye. But it's a shame. I mean, I always had more respect for Rose. To me, I don't care what the situation is. I mean, look at Rondo. He's getting benched, permanently. He's out of the rotation, and he still shows up. So I'm a little disappointed with Rose. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's nothing crazy because I'll feel horrible if it was a big personal situation. But hopefully Rose is doing okay. Still a Knicks fan. I'm still hoping that things work out. But anyway, that's my little quick Rose rant. Anyway, we're going to start. We got a 9-game slate, and I don't want to go too long because I stretched a 3-game slate into about almost an hour yesterday. So let's see if we can get this in pretty quick. Chicago at Washington is our first game. Total is 203.5. Spread is 10. Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler are both expected to be out. So if you take them out, who do you like on Chicago? Michael Carter-Williams, I guess, is in play. I'd rather not. Too many good point guards today. I'm not going to be on him. Denzel Valentine could return. Don't know how long he'll play if he does return. Doug McDermott, I guess, is in play. A little worried about Porter covering him. Porter's one of the better defenders on Washington. So Dougie's in play at 4,000. He burned a lot of people yesterday, so I could see people being off of him. If they're off of him, he's interesting, but I don't know. He should get a good run of minutes, though. So maybe a good cash game play. I don't know. I'm not crazy about this game, as you can tell. Taj Gibson, 4,700. His minutes have been reduced significantly, but maybe he'll get more run without Wade and Porter. I don't know. But his minutes are unreliable, so don't think he's in play for cash. Mirotic, 4,500. He's the guy you want from Chicago in cash games if you want to go this way. I'm not going to go this way, but his minutes have been more secure, although against Oklahoma City last night he only played 16 minutes and got 2.5 points. So he was a popular cash game play, and he tanked. So they're in play. I'm not big on Chicago today. On the Washington side, John Wall, 9,500. He's in a crush spot. Michael Carter-Williams has been a horrible defender. So Wall's in a very good spot. It's just at 9,500. He's very expensive. So maybe GPPs, but I think Washington blows him out here. Beal's in a very good spot as well with no Wade. Porter's in a crush spot. McDermott, not a good defender. Jimmy Butler would have been on him, but so I like Porter. I like pretty much, that's the problem. Even Markieff Morris, like all 5 of the starters for Washington are in play, and that's what makes me think that they're going to crush Chicago. The total's not impressive, 203.5, so I get the idea that we could see like a monster, like maybe 80 to 110 kind of game. Maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I don't like. I'm not going to be too big on the Chicago guys today. Even though I will say, if you're looking for value, there's significant value with Mirotic, Gibson, and Michael Carter Williams, and of course Dougie McDermott. McDermott's probably my favorite play out of the group. I could see using him as a punt option in cash games just because of his minutes, and they're going to rely on somebody for scoring. He's a pretty good scorer. That's what he's known for. That's what he's there for. So he's interesting. Gortat's interesting, but like I said, I'm concerned about the blowout. There's too many good centers today also. So Wall's in a crush spot. I'm just concerned that they don't need him to play a Wall type game. So I don't know. I'm not too big on this one. Moving on to Boston and Toronto. I like this game a lot. We've got total is 218. Toronto's favored by 4.5. Toronto is home. And I love this game. Isaiah Thomas, monster spot for Isaiah Thomas. Bradley is expected to be out, and Zeller is doubtful. He's sick, and Bradley is expected to be out with his Achilles. So Isaiah Thomas is going to get a pretty big usage bump here with Bradley out, a monster usage bump. It's great to target point guards against Toronto. That's where you want to target them. So I love Isaiah Thomas today. Marcus Smart, I think, will be chalky today. I think in cash games especially. 5,200, I get it. But against DeRozan, this is a bad matchup. I don't like him today. He's been playing very well. 40 FanDuel points against New Orleans in his last game. 33.4 against Philly. He's been playing very well. His minutes have been above 30 in his last two contests. But I think DeRozan will be on him if he's playing the 2, and I don't want any piece of that. Gerald Green's an interesting GPP play. His minutes have been inconsistent, but when he's on the court, he's got a decent usage rate. When he's on the court, you know he's there because he does things. In his last game against New Orleans, 16 minutes, that's it. 15 points in 16 minutes. 18.6 FanDuel points. So Green interesting in GPPs only if you think he'll get a run, but there's nothing to make you believe he will. Jay Crowder, he's burned me so many times lately, but at 5,000, you don't need him to do too much, so he's an interesting play at small forward. I think there are better punts, and I think there's obviously bigger plays, so he's kind of stuck in the middle. So I'm not crazy about him with Carroll on him. Amir Johnson's interesting. Toronto doesn't really have that traditional power forward. Patterson's back, but even though he's been back, his minutes have been kind of sketchy, and they've been going in a weird route. So Amir Johnson's in play. I just don't know how much he'll play. That's what scares me is his minutes in this matchup. If Toronto goes small, you don't know what they might do there. Al Horford definitely in play. Valanciunas not a good defender, not a good rim protector, not good enough anyway. Horford can shoot those threes. Obviously, Valanciunas may have a hard time getting out there. So Horford definitely in play at 7,400. But again, the position's kind of deep. On the Toronto side, Lowry is also in a crush spot. So Isaiah Thomas and Lowry, I love in this game as a correlation play against each other. Lowry has a significant height advantage over Isaiah. So as much as I think Isaiah will have his way on offense, I think Lowry will also have his way on offense. So I love Lowry today. I like DeRozan. I don't think I'll put DeRozan in cash. Maybe, maybe not. But obviously if Bradley was in, it's a different story. But without Bradley, I think DeRozan's going to go under-owned anyway, and he has an epic matchup. I think people are going to either pay up for Harden, for Giannis, or they'll pay down for like a McCollum who's $200 cheaper. They'll pay down for Beal who's in a good matchup, maybe Klay Thompson or Contavious Caldwell-Pope, who I also like, but we'll talk about him later. But I think DeMar DeRozan could go under-owned, or he's going to be way too over-owned. So it's interesting because shooting guard is kind of thin, but that's what makes me think people might pay up and just go with Harden and Giannis. Or McCollum, I think McCollum is going to be the guy people take. He's been crushing lately, so I think people will be taking McCollum over DeRozan. So that's interesting. Not big on the small forward position for Toronto. Not big on the power forward position or the center. So the only guys I really like in this game are Lowry and DeRozan. But from this game total, Thomas and Lowry. Love them today. It's hard for me to get off of them today. I really like those guys. There's a good chance one of them busts, and we'll talk about a pivot play later. But I love these guys in the beginning. Moving on to Atlanta at Brooklyn. Total is 214. Atlanta is a road favored by 7.5. This game's a little tricky. Schroeder's in a great spot. Schroeder's in a really good spot against Brooklyn, especially with Lin out. It's good to target point guards against Brooklyn, and his price is only 6,900. Not going to kill you. Not really big on any shooting guards or small forwards from Atlanta. I think there are better options. No real upside there from Hardaway, Bazemore, or Thabo. Although Hardaway could be, he's a 4,500. I like him better around 441, but 45, I guess he's okay. They've been giving him some run here, so maybe he should be good for 20. You don't know for sure, though. But he's an interesting play. He's in play. I'm not going to say he's not in play. Millsap's definitely in play. Trevor Booker's questionable in this game. So I think that if Booker does not play, I don't see anybody there to stop Millsap, especially with Millsap and Howard on the court together. So I think Millsap's in play. 8,100 is a little expensive. But like I said, if Booker doesn't play, who's going to stop him? Even if Booker plays, Booker's not the best defender. So I think Millsap's pretty safe if you're looking for safety. And Howard is, on paper, Howard's in a crush spot. He's in a phenomenal spot on paper. Brooklyn's one of the worst teams at defending centers. The thing about Howard that I don't know is he's not so much known as a scorer. He can score, but he's never going to score like 28 or 30. Well, he will. So I shouldn't say never. He can. But he doesn't do it very often. He's more of like a rebounder and defender. So I don't know if this is the greatest spot for him, especially a guy like Lopez who can shoot threes and whatnot. But he's interesting. I just don't know if I trust him in cash. But on paper, he looks great. On paper, the matchup looks phenomenal. As far as Brooklyn goes, the only Brooklyn point guard I would consider in a GPP is Spencer Dinwiddie. That's a funny name. 3,900. He's shown he's got some skill. He's shown he could score. He could pass the ball a bit. But his minutes, you don't know. So GPP only. If you think he'll play some minutes, he's in a great spot against Schroeder, obviously. I love targeting point guards against Atlanta. But in cash games, his minutes are way too inconsistent. Shooting guard, Kilpatrick is certainly in play. 4,100. That's the price I would have liked to have seen Hardaway at. But Kilpatrick is, with Lopez under tough coverage, Kilpatrick's the only other guy that can really score because I think that Bogdanovich will have Thabo defense. So if that's the case, Bogdanovich could struggle. If Thabo's on Kilpatrick, that makes things better for Bogdanovich. So pay attention to who you think is going to cover who. If Booker plays, I think he's in play. I don't love him against Millsap, but I guess he's okay at 5,400. Brook Lopez is interesting, but hard matchup. GPP only. If you think Lopez is going to hit his threes, he could just stay on the three-point all day and just drain shots against Howard. But there's too many centers that I like better. I'm not crazy about him. Moving on to Charlotte at Houston. Total is 225, highest total of the night. Houston is favored by 9.5. We know that Batum is out with a knee. Eric Gordon is questionable with a toe. So very simple for Charlotte here. I think Kemba at 8,300 is GPP only. Everybody knows about his home and road split. So I think he'll be low owned, especially considering he's got a tough matchup against Beverly. However, with Batum out, his usage does go up. So he's going to try to do more, I think. They'll have no choice. If they want to be competitive, he's going to have a good game. So if you think this game could stay close without Batum, then maybe Kemba could be a guy to go in GPP. I wouldn't put him in cash. There's too many good point guards. That's why it's hard to take that chance. But in GPPs, I think he will be fairly low owned, and Kemba is somebody that it's not easy to get him low owned. So if you want to take a chance, I'm not mad at you. I don't know if I'm going to do it myself, though. Obviously, now Batum is listed as a game time decision on FanDuel right now. But I know I'm pretty sure he's actually doubtful, and I don't think anybody's expecting him to play. But with him out, Jeremy Lamb is going to be super chalky. Love Jeremy Lamb for cash. I know he's chalky, but in cash games, it's okay. I love Lamb. He's a usage monster when he's on the court. He likes to chuck shots. He gets rebounds. He moves, and he's going to have Harden or maybe Ariza or somebody on him. I'm not really afraid. Ariza's obviously a better defender than Harden. Who isn't? But I do like Lamb, especially in cash. He'll probably be in my cash lineup for sure. I love Jeremy Lamb at 4,000. Might look for a pivot off of him in GPPs just because I think he will be high owned, but the spot is so good that I might stick with him anyway. I also really like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, 4,800. If you want to punt at small forward, he's been a solid punt option. He's been pretty consistent. He will most likely make my cash game lineups. He's got some upside. He's got the safety because he's a good defender as well. So even if he's not really scoring, he gets rebounds typically, and he can typically defend pretty well. So in a against a very fast-paced, sloppy style team like Houston, you can get quite a few steals, I think. So I love MKG today in all formats. Moving on to power forward, I'm not too crazy about Marvin Williams or Frank Kaminsky. The minutes are iffy. Maybe Kaminsky, 3,900 if Zeller is out. Maybe Kaminsky, just because of his price. 3,900 for a guy that has 30-point upside is definitely interesting, but unless Zeller is out, his minutes are too inconsistent, and I couldn't trust him in cash anyway. I don't really like Marvin Williams either. I think there's better guys at 4,600 you can go with. Center, if Zeller plays, I don't think I like him anyway. I never really do. Whether he plays or not determines whether I target centers against his team. Going to the Houston side, Patrick Beverley is in play, but I think there's too many other good point guards. Don't think you need him at 5,900. He dudded on me last time, and then he made it up to me, but barely made it up to me, but he got me to cash. Barely helped me break my losing streak on Sunday, or was it Saturday? Anyway, shooting guard. How could I skip over that? Harden, monster spot. Don't see who stops him with Batum out. Maybe they'll put MKG on him, which can make things interesting, but still, I think Harden is as close to matchup proof as a guy could get when he's playing a team with a decent pace. So Harden definitely in play, 11-7. I think he will be somewhat chalky because this is the highest total on the board, so I think he will be chalky, and rightfully so. He's James Harden. He should be. Small forward, Ariza is interesting only if Kid Gilchrist is going to cover Harden. Now, Ariza's in an interesting spot at 5,800. You could go with him possibly in cash, even though he disappointed me in his last contest. You could try going with him because he is one of the better defenders on the team. So I could see them using him to minutes-wise. I could see him getting a lot of minutes for defensive purposes. So he's definitely interesting at 5,800. If you think this game's going to be a blowout, if Eric Gordon is out, I forgot to talk about him. If Gordon is out, Harden gets an even bigger bump because that's his backup. And also Sam Decker or somebody could get some decent runs. So not in cash games. I wouldn't trust these guys. Too many better guys in better spots, and Decker doesn't really get the minutes. But if you think it's going to be a blowout, you want to take a GPP dart, or you think Decker will get run with Gordon out. If Gordon is out, he's interesting. Gordon is a guy, if he does play, Gordon's a guy I love taking in cash. He's 5,900. He's always around that price range, nice and cheap. Sometimes, I like him a little cheaper. But if you want to talk about consistency, this dude has been over 20 FanDuel points in his last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Forget about it. The last time he had a game under 20 FanDuel points was November 25th. So you want to talk about consistency in cash games? This is your guy. If he plays, he will be in my cash games, possibly in my GPP lineups. But Gordon is somebody who's never as owned as he should be because he comes off the bench. He comes off the bench, but he pretty much runs that entire second unit. So when Harden's point guard and he's shooting guard, it's just assist to Gordon all day. So love Gordon today too. But there's a couple of guys I like in that range, so we'll talk about that. I already talked about Ariza. Ryan Anderson is in play, 5,200. I wouldn't trust him in cash. He's too volatile. But in GPPs, he has the upside that can get you there, 5,200. Montrezl Harrell, if Gordon is out and Harrell does not start, then I think Harrell takes charge of that second unit. And if he does, at 5,300, he's a great play. If Harrell starts, I don't know if his usage will be there. If Gordon is playing, it's a chance with Harrell. So if Gordon is out, I think Harrell is almost cash game playable. But if Gordon plays, then maybe GPP only for Harrell. Moving on to Milwaukee at San Antonio. Total is 205. San Antonio favored by 9.5. Point guards, not crazy about Brogdon or Dellavedova unless Parker sits, just because for some reason they've been worse defensively without Parker there. But San Antonio has been pretty good against point guards, so I don't want to go there. Giannis is probable to play. I know he was sick. He missed his last game. Now, he was in small forward I think on Sunday. He didn't actually play, but he was listed as a small forward on FanDuel, and for some reason I got moved back to shooting guard. But he's 10-1 today. And I think people will still be on him because they might look at this and say, well, he's the only guy that could score. But if Kawhi covers him, it's going to be tough. Kawhi's probably the best defender in the league at the small forward position. So I don't think I'll be playing Giannis too much. I don't really like this game in general. The only other guy, Jabari, you can put in GPPs. I wouldn't trust him in cash against LMA. But in GPPs, if he could sink his outside shots, LMA may have a hard time getting out there. So Jabari's interesting in GPPs only. Monroe, our projections loved him week to week. The cheat sheets loved him week to week, and he wasn't getting the minutes, and that's why he wasn't hitting. Now that he's getting the minutes, you can see he is hitting those numbers. He's hitting those solid projections. So his price finally came back up. He's 6,000. I think I'm off of him, even though he's been a phenomenal play. Could be a good way to go. I'm not afraid of Gasol necessarily. It's just there's a lot of good centers. But in cash games, he's been getting solid minutes. He's been above 30 in his last 30 FanDuel points in his last 5 games. So Monroe definitely in play. On the San Antonio side, I don't think San Antonio is going to rest anybody, but if they were to, maybe a Tony Parker rest, then Patty Mills gets value. He becomes in play, but not too big on the point guards or shooting guards for San Antonio. Kawhi Leonard's certainly in play, 8,300. He might have some low ownership because people might be afraid of Giannis' defense, but I'm not. Kawhi's a scorer. Kawhi will get it done. I like Kawhi 8,300. LMA is probably my favorite play in this game. I might steer him in cash games. I don't know. There's some guys I like. A lot of guys I like at power forward today, but 7,700. You would got to think he's pretty safe against Jabari. Jabari's not a good defender for one. Two, Aldridge is much stronger and bigger than Jabari, so I think that Aldridge can kind of bully his way down there. So I like Aldridge in both formats. And Gasol is interesting. GPP only for Gasol, but Monroe's not the best defender, nor is Henson, so Gasol could do some stuff here. But not my favorite game to target in general. The next game is very interesting. Cleveland at Utah. Lowest total on the board. When's the last time you see Cleveland in a game with a low total or lowest total on the board? 202 is the total. Spread is Cleveland, I think, minus 2.5 or 3. Very interesting here. Now, I don't like Kyrie. I think he's my least favorite of the big three, and he's also priced in the middle. He's more expensive than Love, but cheaper than LeBron. Don't like Kyrie. Hill's back, and Kyrie is still nursing that hamstring, so I'm a little concerned with what he might do. Plus, the other two are playing, so as far as I know, they're playing. So, not really big on Kyrie today. I like him better at home anyway. Not too big on the shooting guards. Now, I don't know if Kyle Korver is going to play. We don't know yet. If Kyle Korver does play, which I don't think he will, he hasn't practiced with him yet from what I understand, so I don't see them just throwing him in there and starting or playing him significant minutes without even practicing with his new team. When he is ready to play, when he becomes a permanent starter for this team, which I think he will, I'm going to be targeting shooting guards against Cleveland even harder. They're already terrible against the shooting guard with J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert. Now that Smith's out, it's just Shumpert, Liggins, and those guys. Liggins is probably the better defender. I shouldn't say that. But Kyle Korver is a horrible defender. So when Korver does get that run, I'll be targeting shooting guards against Cleveland all day. Just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, don't like any shooting guards from Cleveland. LeBron, I think, is a very good GPP spot. The reason I say that is because I think this is a situation where you can get the big three pretty low owned, which is rare. They're on the road, and they're obviously better to take it home. But he's 10,000, so he's expensive in a game against Utah, a team that people hate targeting, including myself. But he's got a matchup against Gordon Hayward. Who's going to stop LeBron on this team? The only person that can stop him is maybe Gobert down low. But LeBron obviously ain't going to be down there. So who's going to stop LeBron? So in cash games, I don't know if I trust. It's a low total. I don't know if you have to go there. Bookie's playing today. Harden's going today. Giannis. So there's some expensive guys. A lot of good point guards that are, expensive. So I don't think you have to go there in cash games. But in GPPs, I love LeBron today. Love Kevin Love today. Favors is back, I know, but I don't think that Favors is going to be able to keep up with Love from the perimeter. So if Love's shots are on, I think Love is a phenomenal cash and GPP play today, but there's a lot of guys you're going to have to choose from. So I think Love is certainly in play. Don't like Thompson, of course, against Gobert. On the Utah side, I love George Hill. He's probably my favorite guy in this tier of pricing for point guards, 6,500 on FanDuel. Since he's been back, he's been a monster. He's been playing extremely well. I think his last game wasn't so great, so people might back off of him but that was against Memphis. Utah against Memphis. Talk about a horrible game. Two of the slowest paced teams in the league. But against Cleveland, I'm not afraid of Kyrie defense. I love targeting point guards against Kyrie, in fact. And in 29 minutes against Philly, George Hill put up 45.6, showing you he still has that upside. 36.5 against Minnesota. I love George Hill today in GPPs. I would put him in cash. It's just I'm having a hard time getting away from Thomas, Lowry, and those kind of guys. But I love George Hill today. I really do. The only other guy that I like from Cleveland, I'll talk about Hood real quick. I don't like him. He's 4,000, so if you really want to punt, or in GPPs, if you want to pivot off of Lamb because you think it'd be too chalky, he's a decent pivot. I wouldn't trust him in cash, but in GPPs, you can take a shot just because Hill on Kyrie, Favors on Love, LeBron on Gordon. There could be some funnel activity going to Hood, so Hood could get fed a little more if he's playing. So GPPs only. Maybe a pivot off of Lamb if you want to do like a Cleveland-Utah game stack, trying to be contrarian. Don't like Hayward today against LeBron. Derek Favors, I love. 4,500, I love him in cash and GPPs. Supposed to be a close game. Favors' minutes have been back up. Utah was off yesterday, and they're off tomorrow, so he should get a full 30-plus minutes. And he's obviously much bigger and stronger than Love, who just lost 10 pounds from the illness. So I love Favors in the spot in all formats, especially cash. 4,500, I think he gets us to where we have to go. Love Favors. Also like Gobert, more for GPP purposes because there's a lot of centers going today, and he's in a tier where I think you either pay up or pay down. So I think Gobert go overlooked, but not big, not as known for his scoring. But I think in rebounds wise here, I think he eats rebounds. I think he gets a lot of rebounds today. So I think he's in play, definitely. Moving on, Detroit at Sacramento. Total is 206. Sacramento's favored by 2 at home. We got Boogie going, obviously. But we'll talk about Detroit first. Reggie Jackson, I'm off him. His price came up to 71. He's been a great cash game player, but he has a tougher matchup against Collison, who's been getting a lot of minutes. So I'm off of Reggie. Love KCP today. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 5,700 on FanDuel. Targeting shooting guards against Sacramento is obviously a great thing to do. It's a great place to go. And I don't see anybody on this Sacramento team who's going to keep up with him. Garrett Temple, Aaron Aflalo, Ben McLemore. I don't think anybody can really stop him. So I definitely like KCP a lot. And if I play Boogie, I'm sure I'll be throwing KCP. And pretty much KCP is my favorite guy on Detroit. Let's just put it that way. Today. Not regularly, but today. Marcus Morris in play at 4,700. Not afraid of Rudy Gay defense. They may need to use Marcus a little more with Reggie out of the picture with Collison defense. So I like Marcus. I don't know what format. Maybe GPPs. I don't know if you need to use him. I like MKG more for that price. But if I'm trying to do a double punt at small forward, Marcus is a guy that usually gets a decent amount of minutes, and he's only 4,700. So he's a guy that could hit his salary. So he's interesting. Power forwards. John Lure is questionable in this game. I forgot to mention that. If Lure is out and they put Tobias in his spot, I do not like Tobias. I like Tobias coming off that running that second unit. So if Lure plays and starts, then I like Tobias. If Tobias is starting, I no longer like Tobias. As far as Lure goes, for 4,400, he's in play, but his minutes have been lower. He's a little injured, so that could make things a little worse, and he's not been playing so well lately. So I'm hoping Lure starts. Lure plays, Lure starts, and Harris takes that second unit, and I'll be all over Harris. Other than that, I don't really like the power forward position in this game. Centers, Andre Drummond, 8,400. I think his price is way too high against Boogie. Boogie is a much better defender than he is, and I don't think I like Drummond today. Some people are going to try it. Some people are going to say, oh, we don't know if Drummond's going to be on Boogie. I don't see a world where Boogie's not covering Drummond. So I don't like Drummond in this game. On the other side, Collison is interesting at 4,500 for cash. If you want to punt there, I personally don't think I'll be punting at point guard. There's too many good point guards going. I can't say it enough. But Collison has his minutes have been back, and his production. He showed against Denver on the 3rd, 38.9 FanDuel points. He showed his upside. So I think he's in a good matchup here. 4,500, very good punt option. I don't mind targeting against Reggie Jackson. I think Collison can kind of have his way here. Rudy Gay is definitely in play. Not afraid of Marcus Morris. He's been okay since he's been back from injury, so maybe a cash game guy because he'll be around 30 or so. Then again, 30 or so might not be enough to pay off his $7,100 salary. So he's interesting, but I don't know. Boogie is the only other guy. I mean, it's Boogie. I think Boogie is the way to go for the Kings. Obviously, Boogie and Pope are my two favorite guys from this game. I don't know how much I'll be playing Boogie just yet, but Boogie is obviously far and away the best center on the slate. Targeting centers against Detroit has been a very good thing to do for a very long time. In the beginning, it was a little better, but even now, Detroit is, I believe, 22nd against centers as far as yielding fantasy points. So Boogie's in a crush spot. I love Boogie today. We'll see if I play him in cash or GPPs, whatever, but I'm going to have exposure to him. Next game, Miami at Golden State. Don't really like this game. Total is 219.5, very high. Golden State's favored by 15.5, and I don't see how Miami's going to keep this one close. Josh Richardson is expected, I believe, to be out. Let me just check my sheet for other injuries. Richardson's out. Babbitt's questionable. Dragic's the only guy in play, really, for me, and that's only in GPPs, just praying that somehow Miami figures a way to keep this close. I don't think they will. Dragic's been very frustrated lately with the losing, you could tell. So not big on Miami, not big on Golden State. I don't really like this game at all. I'll go over it, but I really don't like it personally. I just don't see how Miami keeps it close. So Dragic's in play. If you need a punt, I guess Ellington is better than Magruder. That's not saying much, but Ellington is cheap. James Johnson, obviously, he's one of their higher producers, but in a blowout, they won't play him. They will rest him in a blowout, so that concerns me. 5,600 is interesting, but like I said, I'm not going to play anybody from this game. Hassan Whiteside, 8,200. I think he'll be low owned, but he should be. He's in a bad matchup. Believe it or not, Zaza's actually a pretty good rim defender, so not big on Whiteside. Since coming back, he hasn't really shown us anything anyway. And like I said, if this game gets out of hand, they will pull Whiteside. So not too big on that. On the other side, not crazy about Curry or any of the Warriors, but I guess Klay Thompson, Durant, Draymond Green are all in pretty good spots. Durant and Klay are probably in the best spots. But again, I don't think this game will be that close, and there's too many options that could score, so I'm not big on it. They're in play. I'm not going to say not to play them. I'm just not going to play them. But if you want to play them, they are in good spots, so go for it. Finally, last game of the night, we got Portland at the Lakers. 223 total. The Lakers are favored by 1.5, I believe. Or is it Portland who's favored? Maybe Portland's favored by 1.5. I don't know. I'm not positive on that. Double check that. But either way, it's supposed to be a close game, high total. Love this game. I mentioned a pivot off of Isaiah Thomas or Kyle Lowry earlier, and Damian Lillard is your guy. 8,900, same price as Isaiah, $100 more than Lowry. Lillard's back, and he's been playing phenomenally. I think that since he's been back, McCollum's been playing better, so I think people would jump on McCollum, and they might go with Thomas and Lowry, skip Lillard, and just put McCollum at shooting guard. But it could be interesting to go maybe Lillard and Thomas, and then put DeRozan at shooting guard over McCollum. That could be interesting for GPPs. Now, I love Lillard today. 8,900. We see a slight price reduction, even though his matchup is actually really good. He just played the Lakers the other day. They were home in that game, and he put up 40 FanDuel points in 36 minutes. So I'm expecting a little more than that today. Especially, I don't think McCollum's going to be that great of a play. I'm going to fade McCollum. I think people are going to be chasing him, and rightfully so. He's pretty much the new DeRozan of the beginning of the season. Lillard came back, and he's been smashing. So I think he's been over 50 in 3 out of his last 4, over 50 FanDuel points in 3 out of his last 4 games. So McCollum's been playing great, but I think people are going to chase. So I think it might be a good time to fade him. Love Lillard. Turner, not so big on. Harkless, no upside, no thank you. Harkless may be in cash if you're looking for a punt, but I think they're better options. I'm not crazy about them. Aminu is a solid cash game play, 4,600. The Lakers are not very good at fantasy points against power forwards, so I certainly like them. I like Aminu. He's been playing solid minutes. His production has been up, so I'm definitely big on Portland today, on Aminu in cash games today. So 4,600, I like Aminu. Plum Dog definitely in play. I love targeting big man against the Lakers. 6,700 is definitely an option. Do your research. See if you like him. He's coming off a pretty good game. He's been playing very well lately. We've seen him be a lot more involved in the team. The offense has been running through him as well. And we've seen he's been above 30 in 4 straight contests. He's been above 40 in 2 out of those 4. So very interesting spot for the Plum Dog. Definitely think he's in play. On the Lakers side, D'Angelo Russell certainly in play, 6,700. His price is pretty good. Last time against Portland, he put up 30.8 FanDuel points. He could do that. He could do better. So I do like Russell. Lou Williams is interesting for that second unit, but his minutes have been so down. It's tough to trust him. Nick Young, too. I don't trust either of them in cash. Luol Deng, I think he could be okay in cash, but I'm worried. Lately, we've seen his production dump off. He was playing very well, but not so much lately. And his minutes have been there, which is why I do like him for cash. I'm just a little concerned about Evan Turner. So for GPPs, I'm off Deng, but in cash, I might be on Deng as that other punt at small forward. Just a little concerned about Evan Turner defense on him. But then again, Deng doesn't have to score to get you those points. He could rebound. He can play some defense. So I do like Deng. And I may even put him in cash, even though that might not seem so safe. I don't know if I'd recommend it for you. Might be a little too risky, but interesting. Love Randall. I don't see who's going to stop Randall. I know I said I like Aminu. That's for offensive purposes. For Julius Randle, I like him for offensive purposes. 7,200. He's priced lower than the other guys I like, the power forward, so he's definitely in play. 7,200. The only concern I have is if Plumlee kind of jams up he's a good rim defender. So if Plumlee decides Randall's killing him and he switches over to Randall, that could be a problem. I don't think that'll happen, but if it does, that could be a problem. But I do like Randall, 7,200. Don't see who stops him except for Plumlee. But if Aminu's going to cover Randall all day, this should be a Randall crush spot. So I love Randall today. Don't like any of the centers. That's pretty much it. So that's going to do it for the game-by-game breakdown. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. If you like what you heard, please either follow us on Podbean, subscribe to us on YouTube if you're listening that way. Subscribe to us on iTunes if you're listening that way. Doesn't matter how you're listening. We do appreciate it. If you're not a member of wisetake.com, membership is free. Gives you access to our forums, to posts. We're trying to get that going. So if you got stuff to say, please go ahead. Ask me some questions on that thing. I'd love to talk to you guys. You also get access to our free NBA projection system. Raw projections are a great way to start, and that helps you out with that. We got some fun tools. So we're trying to get some fun stuff going here. Go ahead and sign up at wisetake.com. We appreciate you again. That's pretty much it for me. If you want to find me on Twitter, it is it is at CK_013. I got distracted by these squirrels running up this tree. There's like 3 or 4 of them running up this tree here. Anyway, CK_013. As always, good luck.
Yes.